0.22 cents. Now we move on to the cost of power, where the government intends to reduce the pass-through cost of electricity losses in order to make it more affordable. Now, according to Kenya Power Chief Executive Officer Engineer Joseph Siror, this will be done by reducing the distance of transmitted power and increasing high-voltage power lines. Now, Engineer Siror was speaking on the Situation Room on Spice FM.
The longer the line, the higher the losses. And maybe another factor I could have mentioned but I'm coming back to this, is the higher the voltage, the lower the losses. Whenever you double the voltage, you reduce the losses to a quarter.
Okay.
So that is to say then, part of the reason why that line was constructed, and it's a 400 kV line, is to elevate the voltages so that you reduce the losses. But coming back to answer you, the reason why we are going all that round is because the projects which were to ensure that we have shorter links have not been completed.
Okay.
And it's that lack of completion which has actually resulted in that situation.
With the losses, who pays for these losses as of today?
Put it this way. The moment you generate power and you transmit, there are transmission losses. The moment you distribute, there are also distribution losses. So what eventually becomes available to be sold is what reaches the end user. And that is actually what is billed to the customer.
So the end user pays for these losses?
No, he pays for the units that they consume.
Okay.
They pay for the units that they consume.
However, once power is generated,
yes,
whether it is by IPPs
yes,
or whomever, it is paid for. They have contracts, isn't it?
Yes,
they will
true.
be paid for what they produce, isn't
True,
it?
true.
So at the end of the day, whether you who collects it, it is lost on the way, whether it's lost as you're going through all these many lines, at the end of the day, the end user who's putting on the light in their house pays for this. The question is, why can't the IPPs and the power generators shoulder those losses and they do not go to the end user?
Like, let me backtrack again. You recall, Ndu, that I said that when we consider, say, that last year, the units that was sold were 10,000 gigawatt hours. Now, it is that power, the 10,000 gigawatt hours, which has to pay all the sector agencies. Like I said, there is the cost for generation, there is the cost for transmission, and then there is the cost for distribution. So what is then passed to the customer, or rather in arriving at the tariff, you are looking at what are the units we are going to sell this year, and what are the tariff requirements for generation. And indeed, maybe for the sake of the public, almost 70% of what Kenya Power collects, they actually pay the generators. So 70% of all those costs go to generators. Now, once you've identified that this is the estimate of what we are going to sell in terms of units, that is what you now use to compute what is going to be the unit cost that is then going to be levied to the customer.
Okay.
Now, Equity Bank Group Holdings has reported